I'm Michelle from Legal Suite, and in this webinar, we are going to have a look at the final account for the buyer. Now, please note that I've already retrieved all my final account items, and if you need some assistance with this, please have a look at the very quick webinar on retrieving final account items. Right, so here we are standing on my transfer, and the final account is located in the DocGen database. So in we go. And here is our final account icon. So we can either click on the little icon or we can press the F4 screen on our the F4 button on our keyboard. Right, so in we go and to the buyer's final account. Now, you will see that there are multiple items already in here, and Legal Suite has sourced all of this information from various screens in the DocGen database. Now, I have a very particular way that I like to present my final account, so I'm going to just take you through the process. I generally like to have all my credits lined up one under the other, starting with my purchase price right at the top, my first debit, and then all the offsets against the purchase price. Right, so having our purchase price at the top, I find it and I can just use these little red buttons on the side of the screen to move this particular item up. So there is my purchase price, and here are the various items that secure both my purchase price and my costs. So in this particular instance, we have a deposit and a mortgage bond and pro forma costs, and we will also have an interest amount on the deposit, obviously because we've invested this on behalf of the buyer in terms of Section 78(2). Right, so there is my deposit and interest accrued on the deposit. Now, in order to insert the amount here, we're going to need to open up this particular item. So we can right click and we can say change, or alternatively, we can click on our change or edit button at the top. So interest accrued on deposit. So let's say that the buyer accrued 6,500 rands worth of interest while the deposit was invested. And again, in it pops, and obviously our totals are adjusted. So our deposit and our mortgage bond have secured our purchase price. Here is our interest, and this is the amount that has been brought in from the final account. My apologies, from the pro forma account screen. Now, I'm going to remove the item for drafting deed of sale. Generally speaking, the deed of sale will be provided to you by the estate agent. If it is a private sale and you've drafted it, the seller normally covers the cost of this. So I'm going to remove this item. So I can either right click and say delete, or I can click on our yellow delete button and just confirm the deletion. Now, each of these items has been brought in from our pro forma account. If you are prorating rates between buyer and seller, you would insert the pro rata rates due by the buyer here. But for the purposes of this, I am going to remove this particular item. Okay, so these are each of our pro forma account items that have been carried forward. Okay, if there were an occupational rent component, you could insert it here, but again, I'm going to delete it for the purpose of this webinar. Now, if there were any additional items that you needed to add to the buyer's account, you could simply click on the insert button and add them to the buyer's account. So, allocated to buyer, is it a debit, is it a credit, is it VATable, and pop the amount in here. I'm just going to quickly take out this blank record. So in this particular instance, you can see that our buyer, in fact, owes us a small amount, probably because of the Homeowners Association levy fee, which is fairly high. Right, so once you've calculated and you have all of your items in your buyer's final account, we can then go and merge the document. The final account is merged from within the screen by simply clicking on the little puzzle piece. Okay, now you have two formats available to you, so we're going to have a look at both the invoice format and the recon format. You have so let's look at the invoice format first. You have the option to display the R for the Rand sign in the body of the final account, and you have the option to include banking details. Now, in this case, our buyer owes us funds, so I will include the banking details so the buyer knows exactly which account to pay the money into. And I'm going to merge the document into MS Word so that it appears on our letterhead. So we click on the OK button, and Legal Suite will now merge the items onto our letterhead and pop it onto our taskbar at the bottom in the format of a Word document. Okay, so here is our final account, referenced, dated, addressed to our buyer. Okay, now I'm not particularly fond of this particular layout. I find it slightly confusing with the negative values. However, it is entirely up to you how you wish to present the final account to your buyer. Okay, so there's the amount due by the buyer, and here are our banking details so the buyer knows which account to pay the amount into. Okay, so this is the invoice layout. Let's have a very quick look at the recon layout. Now, as I mentioned before, I much prefer this layout. I find it a lot easier to read. So click on the OK button, and once again, Legal Suite will merge the final account into a Word document and pop it on your taskbar at the bottom. Right, so here it is here. And this showing the debits and the credits offset against the purchase price and the amount of pro forma costs paid. So if we scroll down, our subtotal and amount due by you with both of our debit and credit columns totaled at the bottom, and our, oopsie, it's just fallen off onto the next page, our banking details. So what you would then do is you would print out 3 copies of this, one for your file, one for your accounts department, and one for your buyer, which you would then email or send to them with the pack of buyer's documents. And this is how we create the final account for our buyer in a transfer matter.